Welcome into the CHGO Bears Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook. Download the app, use promo code CHGO when you sign up. It's over. The draft is over. We did it. We made it. We are here. Everyone except for Nick, who may or may not still be with us.
Quick shout out to my guy, Jeremy. No, I'm not doing this show with my shirt off because we're late. Sorry.
Yeah. Also, no one's late. The plan was always to go on right when the press conference was over. There was never actually. You have to put a scheduled time on the YouTube thing, but the plan was always press conference over, show. We actually started early, I think, in my opinion. Welcome in Adam Hoge, Will DeWitt, Greg Braggs Jr., Mark Carman, and Nick will join us from House Hall shortly to recap the pressers that just went on. Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles speaking to the media. Where should we start? With how many bets Carm owes me, or
what do I owe you for? I saw your tweet that I owe you, and me and apparently Adam Johns both owe you things. What do I owe you?
We made a bet, and all of our listeners and viewers, they're so loyal, they'll remember this. You bet me that the Bears would not take a running back in this draft.
I did bet that. Yep, no, I did. 100%.
And it was a bottle of bourbon, which is why I mentioned bourbon in the tweet. Great.
Another loss for me. 100% lost.
And I love that you didn't even remember it.
I needed a reminder. It's been a minute of hot takes over here, spot on takes. But I got to tell you, I think that pick, for me at least, is the most exciting pick of the whole draft. I am super excited about getting Roschon Johnson in here, and I love the Tyler Scott pick too. I did not think they would take a running back. They took a running back. They obviously took someone that they really loved. And Hoge, I got you, buddy. Bourbon on the way, no problem.
Let's go.
I pay my debts, unlike Braggs.
And Adam Johns.
Where does that come from?
Nowhere. I'm making.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah. Oh, don't be putting that on me now.
Yeah.
Braggs, how you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good. Okay. I'm running on fumes for a different reason than Nick Moreano. Nick's working. I drank till 1 a.m. with our loyal, CHGO fans that came out. I just didn't want to leave them. They want to stay at Joe's on Weed Street. I wasn't going to leave them behind. Never leave a man behind. We're in this together.
MVP.
I'm just tired out from the travels, the driving.
Yeah.
I'm on like 3 hours of sleep. I told my wife before we went live that I have to let you guys know whatever I say cannot be used against me in the future. No, I feel pretty prepared for today's show. I'm excited.
I guess I technically did leave you behind, Braggs.
That's okay.
Some of us had to wake up and cover the third day of the draft.
Yeah, and you did such a great job.
So, although this morning was weird. I knew it was an 11 a.m. start time, so it was one of those things where I was still up at 7:30. I was like, I got time. Next thing I know, it's 10:40 and the Bears are making a trade. Like, what? How did that happen? By the way, thank you for making that trade to buy us an extra 20 minutes or whatever it was.
Love
I
that
appreciate
deal.
it. Did it for us, Ryan Poles. All right, so we are going to fly through the rest of the picks that were made today and go through your super chats and recap everything that happened today. We're also going to hear from Nicholas Moreano momentarily. He's going to dial in from House Hall and tell us about the press conference. What is Carm doing already to derail
I'm in
the
a
show?
mood. Let's go. It's bright in here. Freaking arguable GOAT, you, Ryan Poles. I'm giving it to you, even though I didn't love everything you did, but I love most of what you did. So arguable GOAT for you. Kurt was in the chat last night. Let's go.
All right. Well, I think what Carm brought up earlier was a good way to start the show. Your favorite pick of the day. Carm gave us his answer already, Roschon Johnson. Will, how about you?
Johnson's up there. It's really hard to pass that one up. I would love to give you something different, but I believe I would be lying to everybody here if I did say another name right now. He just looks the part of a complete back. They mentioned his pass pro ability, his ability. He's a thumper. He's like a big bruiser type of back. A-plus character guy, has a quarterback experience, literally was a quarterback until week 1 of his freshman year when there's injuries at running back and they needed a body. And he's like, hey, I can help out over there. He just seems like a really good get at a very interesting point of the draft and can have a really sneaky big impact on this team, not just as a rookie, but like for a very long time. So, yeah, he's my guy.
Braggs?
Well, I mean, we're going to sound like a broken record here, but, as we talked about during the show last night, I speak on guys that I've actually watched, and Roschon Johnson is somebody I've watched more than a handful of times. I have a few friends that are really big Texas Longhorn fans. And sometimes when I was watching games, you turn your head for a second, you look over, you hear big plays happening, and you'd think it's Bijan Robinson running down the sideline. And it's like, oh, no, that's Roschon Johnson. I mean, because they were both that good. And it's kind of funny because I messed up on the tweet, and I think it was Patrick Finley that asked the question, where it's like, well, he doesn't have any tread on the tires. I think we're all getting that saying reversed. It's actually he has tread on the tires because he hasn't been used enough.
That's a good point.
And
the tread wears off when you
exactly
get used more.
Yes, and everybody keeps messing up. We keep saying it the wrong way. He has plenty of tread on the tires because he hasn't really been used that much. I played the clip because light bulb went off when they drafted him. I was like, I can remember Bijan Robinson at the combine speaking his praises very highly. Now he's his teammate. Of course he's going to and show him some love. But what he said, I thought was very profound about the kind of person he was. And, when you talk about, maybe we'll get into the RAS scores and things of that nature and the type that Ryan Poles has, the other part of the type that they have with these guys is their character, what they do off the field, who they are as a person, their love for the game. And that's what exemplifies most of this draft class and Roschon Johnson specifically.
I just want to push back on one thing, and it is a good point that he has tread on the tires. And I thought it was interesting in the press conference. It's not like Poles was like looking at him like, oh, sweet, this guy hasn't played. They're just betting on the talent. You want guys to have played. You want them to have dominated. You want them to have run over people. You're not looking for someone who's just been stashed on the bench. But I think this is a chance really for Ryan to show some elite ability to evaluate talent on a guy who was sitting behind arguably the biggest talent in the draft as far as position players are concerned. So I love that he was able to. I love how excited he is about it, and I like his thought process here a lot.
And he's a bowling ball out there. He doesn't get hit. He hits the defenders, and that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And it does bring a different skill set to that running backs room. And I think in the press conference, they were talking about defensive line depth and how you can kind of keep guys fresh with how many defensive tackles they brought. Look at this running backs room too. Like if they go by the committee approach, you can really keep some fresh legs out there on game day, and that's going to have another big impact coming up this year.
And you specifically compare that with Khalil, and those are two totally different styles. Maybe Deontay Freeman will be here just a year. I would bet on that, but who knows? I mean, he's not exactly an old running back. But it's super interesting the way they could mix and match these guys and just get Roschon on the field, and maybe he's just a special teams guy to start because he's getting a lot of praise for being able to do that at an elite level. Hoge, you brought that out in your evaluation.
Yeah, so we got more on Roschon Johnson coming up. Braggs, before he went into his deep slump post Fairleigh Dickinson in his life, dominated the combine. And one of the great things he did at the combine was get a video from Bijan Robinson talking about how much he loves Roschon Johnson. So I hope we can bring that to you a little bit later on. My favorite pick, though, as much as I like that pick, I did like that pick. He was, by the way, I spent a lot of time on Johnson because he was right on the border of making our Bears 100. And ultimately, I just wasn't completely sold that he's the part of the reason why I liked him so much was because I'm like, he is going to be in the league a long time as a special teamer. But I wasn't sold that he's going to be, a lead back. However, it's certainly on the table because he was behind Bijan Robinson. It's one of those situations where it's like, well, yeah, Bijan Robinson's ridiculous. So, he probably could have been starting at a lot of other places. So anyway, we're going to get into that a little bit more. Tyler Scott was my favorite pick of the day. We will also talk about him because we're going to go through these picks one by one. The Duke is here. Nick is here. The Duke says $49.99. I'm not saying I'm out on Dexter, but I don't like that even in his highlights, he's so slow off the snap. If I can see it, not good. I like Darnell. I love Roschon. They went with traits. Now we see if their player dev is what they think it is. C+ overall from the Duke. Sort of in the middle.
I completely agree. They're looking at athleticism, and then they're trusting their coaches to get the most out of them. You know, this guy has big measurables, good athlete, but maybe the stats aren't where fans want it to be. So they're trusting that.
All right, let's bring in Nick from Howell's Hall. He's been grinding. He's still got to hide his face there due to rules. But
what's going on, you guys?
His caricature looks pretty good. All right, Nick, we just heard from Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus. What was your biggest takeaway or takeaways from the press conference?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple here if we're looking just through the entire about 18 minutes that Ryan Poles was able to speak today. When I look at like some of the things that weren't maybe addressed right in this draft with 10 picks, like the defensive end position was one that I think even Bears fans are still wondering about. And Ryan Poles was asked about that in his presser. But here's what he had to say, and I do agree with him to a certain point. It's like the right players have to be there. Scheme ultimately matters when you're looking at the players and where they rank on your board, and they were aware of their strengths and weaknesses. So, and he, also said later on that, we still have some flexibility to improve certain areas, but that the right players need to be in the specific spots that they're looking to, maybe draft a player with one of those 10 picks. And they didn't feel like that was necessarily the case here. So even though like that wasn't an area that wasn't addressed maybe as much as Bears fans wanted to in this draft, it's not like Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus and everyone involved weren't aware of like what their needs are on this team. So there's still going to be an opportunity, they believe, to upgrade that position. But that was like one of my takeaways, just kind of listening to him. Another big takeaway.
Nick, before you move on to the next one,
yeah.
just to keep it kind of itemized here, just so everyone's aware, his team is in one position away from going to the Super Bowl. There was no way they were going to be able to address every need in the draft. It just wasn't going to happen. And especially early on with the picks, I'd like to point out, how many offensive linemen did they draft? One. Mm-hmm. And everyone's excited about that guy in Darnell Wright, but it's not like they added more depth inside or even at tackle for that matter. And it's so, that's another area. They're still in a position where they're going best player available, which is why they ended up with 3 defensive tackles, which at least, hopefully that fills that need, which was a big one too. But they drafted a linebacker, which they really did not need with all the signings that they had. They still did it. So they're still going through that approach. And the bottom line is like, they're not going to be able to get every position of need by doing that.
And just to follow up on that, it is interesting. One offensive lineman. It also is interesting that they, traded up to get a cornerback, which arguably is not like their biggest position of need, but they prioritized a guy that they really liked who was on their board. And the other thing, he said about 100 times over leading up to it and in the press conference that we just listened to, big, long, and fast. And they looked at that, all over the place, and physical. I would think I would add in there. They are looking for violent dudes. They love Darnell Wright because he's violent. They like Roschon Johnson. The dude is violent. The cornerback they drafted, violent. They're looking to absolutely be a team that you do not want to play. He said that as well, which I love.
And I at some point would like to challenge you on this, Hoge. We can go through what Nick's takeaways were first, but like as far as what actually was best player available versus what actually was need. Because I think in the first 2 rounds, I think there's some debate there.
Nick, let's talk a little bit about what he had to say about the relative athletic scores. And I mean, he even acknowledged pretty quickly that, as you guys can probably see, that whole idea of big, fast, strong, long, all those traits, it seems to be a huge emphasis here.
Yeah, for sure. He said, one of the goals in this draft, he wanted to get bigger and faster in this draft, and felt like they were taking the right players to ultimately take the right steps in achieving that goal that they had. And, you see some of the players that were taken. And, I think you guys were mentioning some of your top favorite players. And one guy that I still need to look more into, the Minnesota cornerback, Terell Smith, fits that to a T, being, a champion in the 100 meter in Georgia State. It was a 10.38 where he ran that. Like, he's taking these players that do have these attributes. And I like the answer that co-director of player personnel Trey Cozio kind of said about what happens when you take a corner that's not only fast but long. They don't necessarily always have to be in the right position every single time, because the physical attributes that they have can make up for some of the things that maybe technique wise they can mess up on a play or not be in the exact right coverage. But it's God-given length, right? So not everybody has that ability to make up ground or to maybe deflect a pass because they have the right size, the right speed, and things like that. So when he was looking at players, I think that was obviously a big emphasis. Ryan Poles talked about it, like Mark said, a bunch of times in his press conference, and it makes the margin of error a little bit bigger because you can't be perfect every single play, every single time. So if you have these athletic players that not only are fast, but, are long and obviously have the football intellect, now you're getting players that can, maybe mess up a little bit, but also be able to make plays on the football field when their opportunity comes.
Yeah, I thought it stood out in the press conference when Matt Eberflus said they like that mismatch on the inside when you have a defensive tackle going up against guys with shorter arms. That definitely stood out to me too.
Nick, you also talked to all these guys. I was listening back to some of the press conferences. I haven't heard all of them. Who stood out to you as far as answers that you heard that you really liked?
Oh, man. A lot of these. So I think as we kind of got down the list of guys, they were a little bit shorter. But you know what? Let's go to round 7, pick 218. Travis Bell. He was just
incredible.
Yes, incredible is a great word just to kind of describe him. And he was a guy that resonated with Ryan Poles, because he was saying, like, with a guy like Bell, like, this is a guy that he said, Ryan Poles said, one of his favorite human beings. Something's different about this guy. He's passionate about the game. He had a full-time job during the season, but still is like going out there in the football field and executing. Like, that spoke volumes to Ryan Poles as to the player that he is. And what he was saying, some of his best attributes is that he can, be a penetrator in the defense, and he's going to bring that intensity. But I just really like the energy that he brought. And it was just him and his girlfriend who were watching and waiting for the draft. They didn't know if they were going to get this call, and he was kind of expecting not to get the call and, sign as an undrafted free agent. But when he did, he told us, like, he had to, like, clean up his face a little bit because of how, the emotions of getting that phone call and speaking to Ryan Poles. So, Travis Bell, even though second to last pick in this draft, that really stood out. And, those are the type of guys you want to root for, right? Like, it's an uphill battle from here being a 7th round draft pick, but seeing how much this meant to him, how much he had to put in just to even get in this position. Like, I'm sure when we all saw the name Travis Bell, we were all searching up stats and trying to search him up. There's not the most information in the world on this guy right now, but it speaks volumes that he's in this position right now. He's a Chicago Bear, and he's going to do everything he can in his power to make sure he can, potentially stay on this roster.
Yeah, I personally loved hearing how much Poles valued the fact that this guy's a blue-collar dude that was coming to the football field from work with his knife still on his pocket. That doesn't necessarily translate on the football field, but it speaks to the person he is and how hard he wants to work for this. So it's definitely somebody that I personally will be rooting for as well, because, when somebody's going to make a commitment like that, it just shows just how bad they want it, at a different level.
Do we know what job he did with this knife in his pocket thing that he talked about, which I loved as well?
We don't. So, yeah, we don't know. But that'll be a great question to ask, when the rookies are here for rookie minicamp.
Yeah.
I like the one quote that Poles
if he's
mentioned.
A bricklayer, it's over.
And Poles was saying, like, they had a top 30 visit with him, and he didn't want him to leave the building,
Right.
Bill. And Bill didn't want to leave the building either. And that's good. Like, they both had that really strong connection out of the gate. And who knows, maybe if the Bears didn't draft him, someone else would have. But if he would have fell out of the draft, maybe he would have wanted to come over here to Chicago. Regardless, Nick, I'm curious your thoughts about just Terell Smith. Tyler Scott. Too many TS's here in my notes right now. But Tyler Scott, I know what Ryan Poles had to say, but I'm just curious what you can relay about him. And of course, Justin Fields gets another very interesting weapon here today.
Yeah, with Tyler Scott, again, going back to like the physical makeup of these guys, he said one of the things that you can't teach is speed, right? It can't be coached. And he said he checked that box. So for him, what having that top end speed that Tyler Scott has obviously gives Justin Fields a vertical threat. But when you have top end speed, Ryan Poles also said that gives you time to learn the route running, which is the thing that Tyler Scott is going to have to be better at the next level. But with the good coaching and hard work in place, he'll have time to get those details down for route running. And we know, guys, I think with this Bears coaching staff and how Ryan Poles, Ian Cunningham, how they view their coaches, they have a lot of trust in those guys to get the right coaching in place. So, guys like Tyler Scott can maximize their ability. So, and it helps when you have this top end speed. And actually, he was another guy who listened to his Zoom press conference, collects sports cards. Obviously, his dad has that, just the similarities look wise to Mike Singletary. But he was a running back and he idolized all these great players like Gale Sayers, Eric Dickerson, and guys like that. But he's another guy that you look at the physical traits, exactly why Ryan Poles wants him. Again, the margin of error, right? He's not the best route runner today, but his speed can make him dangerous today. And that will allow him to still develop the route running. And once you get all that together, now you're getting more of a complete wide receiver. But yeah, he's a guy that, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do, obviously taking the top off the defense. And hopefully as, the coaching comes along, becoming a more nuanced route runner that will ultimately help Justin Fields.
Nick, last thing for you, just how do you feel about the class as a whole?
Adam, it's an interesting question. I think it's a good class. When you look at, the totality of all the picks here, and I think it started off with a home run with Darnell Wright. And then I really like Tyreek Stevenson. And I just need to see what the three techs, how they can play, right? I mean, when you look at the stats and everything, it's not the most gaudy thing where exactly how they're going to project to the next level. But they took 3 swings at the 3 tech position. So that'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. Yes, I think I would have liked to see more of an emphasis at the edge rusher position, but Ryan Poles explained why that didn't happen. So, and you also go get a running back and wide receiver, getting more weapons for Justin Fields. And that's the big thing. I think because Ryan Poles accomplished the main goal going into the 2023 season, putting around weapons and stabilizing the offensive line, I feel good about it. You have your right tackle with Darnell Wright. You have now another running back option with Roschon Johnson. You have Tyler Scott, added with a wide receiver room. And now that is going to ultimately help Justin Fields be at the best version of himself. And that was one of the things that, Ryan Poles was also asked about. Like, you have now, do you feel like you have the support in place for Justin Fields to essentially take that next step? And Ryan Poles said on paper, he feels that they've done a good job with the players they have. So now we got to see them go execute, develop that chemistry with one another, and see if that all plays out.
All right, Nick, great work at House Hall all weekend, all 3 days. I know it's a grind. You got Finley walking around just nonstop. Chris Emma's talking and, giving Cubs update scores. And I was only there for a few hours today and got the experience. So, you had to put up with it for 3 days. So I commend you. And no, in all seriousness, great work.
Nick,
Appreciate you guys. Great work with everything at Joe's, and I think we did a pretty damn good job providing all the coverage we could on this 2023 NFL draft. And there's going to be a lot more, obviously, from all of us here at CHGO and with all these new players that the Bears have. But appreciate you guys, and we'll talk soon.
All right, Nick, get some sleep. There he is.
Nick. But Nick, I talked to Kevin Kadick, and he says that me and you are doing a pod tomorrow at 7 a.m. for the early morning people on Sunday. Hoge, you're invited.
No chance.
Rise and Shine? We do a Rise and Shine podcast?
I'll be headed to the gym.
Idea.
I'll be headed to the gym for the first time in at least a week. Draft season, not so healthy for you. All right, Melbourne Bartholomew here with a 1999 Super Chat video on, don't know what that means, sorry, about Pickens and Dexter on how the combination together can create havoc in the backfield. Cameron Lynch breaks it down. It will make Carm feel better. Must watch. Video was made pre-draft.
Yeah, Will shared it right as the pick was made. It was really interesting. This guy nailed it on both players, and they both ended up on the Bears.
That's awesome. That's all. I don't know what that is. What's the correct handle? Is that a handle?
I just see it. Yeah, it's like the name of the handle of the.
Okay,
the
I
account.
apologize.
It's probably like his initials and last name, if I had to guess.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I mean, look. There's by the way, that's the type of stuff you can find in our draft board. We have player profiles for each Bears pick. We now have a tab in there for all the CHGO diehards. You can go in there. We have a tab now that's just the players the Bears picked, and you can go in there and read up on these guys. Working overtime a little bit to get you more on Travis Bell and Kendall Williamson there at the end, but a lot of these are pretty full at this point, so there's a lot to digest. Before we get into each one of these picks that were made today, which we're going to do, we do need to tell you about James and Sons, right? They've been awesome this week, helping us with our draft coverage and sponsoring everything that's been going on here. And if you're shopping for an engagement ring, well, you know that can be intimidating. There's a lot to know when making a big decision, like finding the perfect engagement ring. That's why you should come visit James and Sons Fine Jewelers, one of the largest family-owned independent jewelers in Chicagoland. They've been in business since 1964. Sunderland family members are working in the stores every day. Professional, no-pressure staff. Stop in, have a beer or another tasty beverage, and just relax and enjoy your engagement ring shopping experience. They have a massive selection of stunning engagement rings from the top designers, including Tacori, Fana, and Hearts on Fire. James & Son carries both natural and lab-grown diamonds. Compare them side by side to see if you can even tell the difference. They offer the James & Sons no BS warranty with all kinds of perks and no extra charge on every engagement ring. 4 Chicagoland locations in Lincoln Park, Naperville, Orland Park, and Shireville, Indiana. Online at jamesandSons.com. Elevate your engagement ring shopping experience. Find the perfect ring at an incredible value at James & Sons Fine Jewelers. Visit jamesandSons.com to get started today. Well, we asked the question before the draft, will the Bears find a gem? The draft is now over. I think they may have.
They absolutely have. Let's just go there. They found 10 gems, damn it. Way to go, Ryan Poles. Hey, the Carman Energy Efficiency Program, they're super energized right now and committed to helping families and businesses in the communities they serve. They're thrilled with this draft, and they're helping you manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future, Will.
Yeah, ComEd offers a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
Can you explain to me, Will, exactly how that works, and more importantly to everybody who's watching?
For sure, I got you, Carman. Authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan specific to your goals and needs. These can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. Within 3 to 4 weeks, customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects that they can start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. So if you own a business, don't wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to comed.com/poweringbiz.
Did you say comed.com/poweringbiz?
You bet your sweet face I did. So go ahead and schedule it today.
Hey, buddy. I'll come back to regular Carm. I'm in such a good mood.
You turned into Terry Boers there at the end. Hey, buddy.
Shout out TB.
All right, one of my favorite human beings, Poles. His favorite human beings, Travis Bell. Mine, Terry Boers. Sorry. 1999 Super Chat jumping in here from Jake, excluding the 7th rounders. Which pick is your guys' least favorite pick? Sewell would be mine. Jumping the gun here a little bit, Jake. I was going to end the show with that question. I guess we can address it now, though, quickly. Excluding the 7th rounders, which pick is your least favorite?
We could save it for later if you want. I could hold this and we could
Yeah, let's come back to it because I
Okay.
want to go through these guys individually and talk it out a little bit
Good.
more before we. I mean, we're
Show our hand.
yeah.
It's a
Day
teaser.
3, but to be honest, day 3 is a little bit of chaotic. Last year was really chaotic with the amount of picks they added. This year they only added 1, which was one they already had going into the draft. So, they went in with 10 picks overall. They ended with 10 picks overall this year. Let's start though with Roschon Johnson, the Texas running back who played behind Bijan Robinson. And look, he was the number 29 recruit in all of Texas coming out, the highest ranked quarterback recruit in the state that year. And he was the number 6 dual threat quarterback overall. So this is a guy who came to Texas to be quarterback. And a theme here you're going to hear as we talk more and more about Johnson is this guy is a team first, do whatever it takes, possibly future team captain for the Chicago Bears. And they had a bunch of injuries right away at running back. So they asked him to transition to running back 1 week before the start of the 2019 season. He does it, and he does it well, and it's a permanent move. But meanwhile, he ends up playing behind Bijan Robinson, and I think there's a lot of players out there, including, by the way, a guy named Tyreek Stevenson who the Bears drafted last night who went through, some similar things in Georgia where not similar things, but he wasn't playing the position that he wanted to, and instead of just doing essentially what Roschon Johnson did, which was, yes, coach, I'd love to do that, and then stick with it, and, I'm going to play behind this other guy, even though I'm highly recruited to play quarterback, I'm going to stick at running back, I'm going to do whatever it takes for the team. I'm going to be a 4-phase special teamer, play all over special teams. I mean, this is really that's Roschon Johnson. I mean, this is really what he's all about. And from that standpoint, that's why I wrote in my draft profile on him as a reliable blocker and a 4-phase special teamer. I think he's going to be in the league for a very, very, very long time, even if he's not necessarily a starter. I think the question is, when we go back to the tape and maybe dive into it a little bit more now that he's a Bear, do we think he can jump in and be, the top running back? I saw some of that on Twitter today from people I trust, that they actually think like this could be sort of like David Montgomery, where you draft him a little bit later on and he actually becomes a very quick starter at the position.
To me,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I would just say, I'll just go quick here because I already sung his praises. What I love about him most, though, when I think about how the Bears are going to use him, imagine the goal line with that dude who is going to be incredibly difficult to tackle, and you could do some RPO stuff with Justin. You've got receivers running open. You got a lot of ways you can put a lot of fear into the defense where they won't know what to do. And even if it doesn't work, that guy might run over someone. Plus the fact that he's pretty elusive too. He's not like he can't make sharp cuts also. So it's pretty exciting when you watch him and see some of his runs where it's like you do not want to deal with that guy.
Yeah, and he even got involved in the passing game a little bit, but yeah, he's the hard yards guy, right? When Adam said that, I was just going to make maybe one of my last wise cracks at the expense of David Montgomery, but it's the truth. I mean, that's who he's going to be, is David Montgomery.
So you hate him already?
No, I don't. I always like David Montgomery. It just, let's not overvalue what he is to the team, and that's why you're able to get this guy now. He comes in, you're not paying him $15 million. It's great. It's a great job by Ryan Poles. He's a leader, hard yards on the goal line. Will he get more than one 20-yard run in a year if he was the lead back? Something tells me he probably will. All right, my final shots he's a division rival now, so I can take as many shots at David Montgomery as I want now.
Fair enough there, Greg.
Whatever.
Fair enough.
Great picture with my daughter, though.
The one thing about Rojo that I like, you mentioned David Montgomery. I do think he has better vision and patience than Montgomery in this Bears scheme. That's the one thing about Monty that I thought he could have worked on. He was a little bit too impatient, got ahead of these blocks, and didn't allow some of those extra cutback opportunities to present themselves. So that's just one extra area of Rojo's game that I wanted to highlight. But I sent some tweets out earlier today from what I was able to find, and the fact that he was, according to ESPN, the number 2 dual threat quarterback coming out of high school in the entire country, super impressive. And I know Ryan Poles mentioned, he has quarterback experience that will allow us to put him on the field with Justin and do some different things, put defenses on their heels a bit. That's exciting. And then we keep talking about this hard hitting. There was a quote from his dad about when he was playing youth football in high school, and there was a hit that was so hard. Then there's like multiple fields next to each other that people who were watching games at other fields heard the hit and had to go look at what the hell happened on that field. So just a glimpse of what kind of player that the Bears drafted here in Rojo.
Yeah, Ryan Poles said that he was shocked Roschon Johnson was still on the board. He pass protects. The quarterback stuff that Will just mentioned will allow the offensive staff to do some really cool things with him. So that was a sort of interesting nugget and a tease that, even if he's not necessarily the starting running back right away, he could be. Apparently he can still throw. So that's something to keep an eye on. Now, the area scout that scouted the Southwest, I think it's John, I hope I'm saying this right, John City. I should probably know how to say that, so I apologize there. But he said, this is thanks to Nick, by the way, being there earlier today at House Hall and talking to him. Quote, the makeup of this kid. Again, you guys are going to see it. This human being is wired differently. The more time you spend around him, the more you realize that you are probably the one who has things you need to work on, not him. He's that kind of guy. I've been doing this now for 5 or 6 years, and just thinking back as we're making that pick, I don't know if I've ever written a guy as much character as him. This is a special, special human being. In terms of his running style, hard-nosed, fits this division to a T, powerful, physical, breaks a lot of tackles. He was one of the higher broken tackle percentage guys that were coming out in this class. There's a lot of hidden yardage with him. And then you talk a little bit just about the versatility in the passing game. And then the thing that we haven't even hit on is that he's best at in special teams. That's the slam dunk for us. I mean, you get these guys across the draft. He's arguably one of the best special teams players across the board. The Bears love this guy.
Sounds like a cram locker room crush coming to Hallis Hall near you.
Good. I'm glad they're crushing him, and I'm glad they took him. And you got to know that if they're taking a running back with that room, they must love him a ton. And it's not surprising that you hear them talking the way they're talking, because that all adds up.
Well, you saw how they showed the draft room when they announced the pick. I'm sure they get excited, but it just seemed like there was a palpable excitement in the room when they were able to get him there.
Braggs was talking to Bijan Robinson in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine and got this video that I believe we have ready of Bijan Robinson's answer when asked about his teammate, Roschon Johnson.
Nope.
We have it, Lawrence? No,
there it is.
There it is.
Man, Roschon is the best teammate, first of all, I've ever had. Obviously he's a running back, but I think that he brings out so much in a player and a team. Just how he goes about being a leader to not just his teammate, but everybody in the community. And I think that who he is as a person and what he does on the football field is, to me, I don't think it's overlooked, because he shows his presence and he makes his presence felt. But Roschon is the guy, and I think that he's the other great running back in this class, and I don't think that people should overlook the talent that he has and the skill set that he brings, because I think he's just as good as anybody, and I think just his toughness and his heart is what makes him stand out over everybody.
Bijan, have you met with the Bucs?
I'd just like to point out on the right side, if you're watching on YouTube, under the column that says relevant people, I'd like to quibble with this. There's Bijan Robinson, there's Roschon Johnson, and then there's Greg Braggs Jr. I mean, Twitter.
I'm not going to fight it.
This is why you cannot trust Twitter in the Elon era.
That's it. I'm not going to say anything else.
I like when you post anything from the Combine, so just keep doing it. It reminds me of the highlights of my life with you, so keep going.
It was a great time. Can't wait to go back.
You did
Prime
nice
47 till 4 a.m. Let's go.
Good job remembering that video too.
Yeah, it definitely sparked when yeah. And I did that. I remember that hungover. So look at how I operate.
This is okay. We have a theme here now.
The old functioning alcoholic on the show. All right.
Hey, come on now. We all have a little fun from time to time.
All right, let's are we good on Roschon Johnson?
We are.
I'm great on him.
Okay, I would like to talk about. I'm glad that the mic thing has become now a thing that's in the comments. Wait, look, yeah, MVZ podcast 499.
I'm going to have a heart attack. Just finish the show.
But you say this every show, and then you don't do
It's
anything
been
about it.
7 minutes
It
before
was-
the
I-
show going over the mic, and now this guy
it was perfect the other day. I don't know.
No,
what
it
happened.
wasn't.
Yes, it was. I listened back to the show. It sounded incredible. There was nothing wrong with it. Now, of course, I'm getting head of context texting me. DeWitt's trying to trouble it, shoot it for me. Now we got MVZ podcast talking about USB XLRs, which I just tomorrow, Monday, me and you, sure, Mike.
I actually want to know the answer to that question, though. Is it USB?
You think I know the answer to that
I was
question?
gonna
It's
say,
USB.
he
You
doesn't
can plug into your
know.
computer with a
It's
USB cable, or is it
Yes.
XLR like a professional? You worked in radio. How do you not know
He
XLR?
doesn't know.
I don't know what an XL because I'm not an engineer. I am.
Look
I
at the
am.
producer.
I am an
Disappointed.
elite. I am elite content provider.
XLR.
Okay, this is a USB. Thank you.
Okay.
Carm, your mic sucks.
Great. How's this? Is this better? How
Actually,
about I do
it
this?
is.
It is.
That actually sounds amazing.
Okay. Just please keep going.
Okay.
Hi, Adam. I respect you too, buddy.
For the podcast listeners, he was talking to me. No, that's a super chat to Adam Westby, $2.
$2.
He does not
These are
respect
very
me.
short. Adam's super chats are very short and sweet.
I like it.
Yeah.
Bang for his buck. All right, Tyler Scott, next guy up on the list here, 133. Guys, this dude was number 44 on our Bears 100 board. I was talking about him last night on the show as being a second round pick when I was like, go get a wide receiver, and he's still sitting there, and the Bears took him. So this is why as much as I like Roschon Johnson, this is my favorite pick of the day. I mean, I think the Bears got tremendous value here with a smaller but very fast wide receiver who gets separation. Will, I don't mean to bring up the IU game, but dude, there is a highlight in that game where he completely turns around the DB, where the DB is all of a sudden facing the crowd and he's running for a touchdown. I mean, this guy, the way he gets that speed right off the line of scrimmage too. He can change gears, which is, almost more important than having the speed. You got to be able to set up your defensive backs by being able to change gears. And then you classify, okay, what does he do well? And Ryan Poles just talked about this, so we can get in this, but like, he's got to develop other areas of his route running. Absolutely. He's got to focus on the details. Absolutely. But one thing I like that Poles said, he's like, you can buy yourself time in the NFL if you have the speed. And that is something he definitely has. If nothing else, he can walk onto the field in week 1 with a package of plays where the defense is going to have to account for him out of the slot, most likely as a deep ball catcher. He can take the top off the defense, and the defense is going to know that right away. And with Justin Fields and his ability to throw the deep ball, that's why this combination, I put it in my notes before the draft, this would be a very intriguing fit with Justin Fields. I also love how he tracks the ball downfield. There was another touchdown catch against IU where like the ball's over his shoulder and they kind of were ripping it from each other in the end zone, but like he made the play. He's a durable player. He's a gunner on punt. So, that gets me excited. Again, physicality, blocking, that needs work. He's still kind of new to the position. He didn't play wide receiver in high school. So the arrow's pointing up. He's going to need some development time, but I still think he's a threat right away to have at least a package of plays in this offense.
So we just talked about a running back that used to be a quarterback, and now we're talking about a wide receiver that used to be a running back. So it's interesting how this is kind of playing out.
He wears 21. It's weird.
Yeah.
You watch his film. He's wearing 21. I'm it looks weird.
Looks like a running back. Just
he kind of plays like one too with the football in his hands, which is really exciting. And Adam, you talked about take that top off of defense, and out of 10 of his 14 career touchdowns at the college level came from 30 or more yards down the field. But what I really like about him, you talk about a package of plays. You can have jet sweeps in there. He can be dangerous in that regard. And if defenses are going to play him off, he can run some of those shorter routes, make defenders miss, and chew up, gain a lot of yards after the catch. So he can really help this Bears offense, help Justin Fields have multiple options. He can be a threat really in all three areas of the field here. I love on the NFL website, I saw the pro comp was T.Y. Hilton. That gets me excited. Living in Indiana my entire life, watched a lot of Bears, but also the Colts are on TV a lot by default. So I've seen a lot of T.Y. And if we can get shades of T.Y. here in Chicago, Justin's going to be very happy. And another fun fact about Tyler Scott is when he was a child, he ran the Junior Olympics. He was a sprinter in the Junior Olympics, just to show how competitive he is with that elite speed. And one other note that I liked, Adam, and you talked about the ball tracking ability, is that when he does track that deep ball, he doesn't lose any of his speed. Some guys, when they turn that head, start to slow down a little bit, but he can keep that top gear, the pedal to the metal, and continue to chug down field. And so it's going to be really hard to overthrow a guy like this.
I mean, the Bears have some speed, but they don't have speed like this guy has. I'm including Darnell Mooney in that. So that component to the offense is exciting to me. What does concern me, which is why he's was there when the Bears were able to get him. I mean, he's caught 87 balls in his college career, 54 being the high last year. And it also, he had 9 touchdowns, which is sweet, but he also had 7 drops. So there's a reason why somebody with that elite speed is there. But the guy's this guy is a track dude. He is a sprinter. He's been doing it his whole life. You mentioned Hoge, the gunner part of it too, which I don't know if the Bears will use him that way, but that's interesting because he certainly is familiar with doing it. But I like it from a fit that they really just didn't have that type of threat. And so it opens some things up.
Well, I mean, DJ Moore, once we get to see him out there, with Fields, he's going to be somebody too, right? But point taken as far as getting speed for Justin Fields, because as they says, Ryan Poles said, it matches the quarterback's best trait, which is the deep ball. So now you've got a guy you can throw it downfield to here. They're, like I said before, they're going off of intangibles, athleticism, and they're going to bank on they're going to bank on the coaching to get him going on his route tree and things like that. You can't teach speed, fine, but how long is it going to take? Because, you're going to have some physical DBs on you. You're not going to get free releases down the field that often. You're going to have to learn to play the position to an extent if you want to stay out there.
We will also accept donations for a cough button for Braggs.
I'm sorry.
So
sorry.
Mike for Carm cough.
Lawrence
button.
loves when I cough into the mic.
Yeah.
He's not. DJ Moore is fast. He's not fast like this dude. This guy, bro.
I'm sorry, Lawrence. I love you. I'm sorry.
I love everybody on this podcast. I just want that to be clear.
All right, good.
I love everybody at CHGO. The amount of work that went into this entire weekend and the shows that we did at Joe's, it was just, literally the definition of a group effort. The amount of people that were doing, from sales to managing the door and the tickets and the audio and the setup.
If we don't want to get too tired patting ourselves on the back, I thought that everybody had fantastic moments this weekend, but the highlight, of course, was everybody who came out to support us. It was great. The Ronettas of the world, come on! This was a big weekend for bonding with the peeps. It was awesome.
Ronetta made me feel like I need to work on my voice more, because by the end of last night's show, I was losing my voice. Like I could feel it strained. She was talking at a 15 the entire night, and it was still going strong. I was so impressed.
I just love that she just struck up a conversation while we were live. That was my favorite part of the whole night. She's the best. Ronetta is as passionate a fan as you're going to find.
All right. One thing I want to mention too, just on the upside of Tyler Scott. This is why I'm very optimistic that it's going to keep going in the right direction. Okay. When you factor in, he was a running back in high school. Not just a running back, though, and this is from the Beast now and Dane Brugler with a quote probably from a high school coach, I'm assuming. He says he had maybe 10 catches in high school.
Wow.
maybe 10 catches. So he literally wasn't like, he was a running back who wasn't even catching the ball in the backfield out of high school. And they recruited him as an athlete. He gets there, obviously you got to have, basically it'd be unfair to think that he can just walk in there and do special things then as a wide receiver. So he didn't redshirt, but he only had 3 catches for 20 yards as a freshman. But then they make him a starter as a sophomore. He puts up 30, 520 yards and 5 touchdowns. And then he steps it up last year with 54 receptions, 899 yards and 9 touchdowns. Carm did mention the 7 drops, which is important to note. But, that to me looks like a kid that if he had gone back to school would have been in the Biletnikoff conversation next year and really would have had a chance to put up massive numbers. Now they had a coaching change. Remember, Luke Fickell left. And so I certainly don't blame him for leaving. And even though he fell a little bit into day 3, I think this is a kid. The arrow is definitely still pointed up. So,
right, like they're saying in the chat, 45 yards per touchdown. The average on his touchdown catches.
Whew, the highlights are great. Little teaser here. I have tape on one of the games. I forget which one it is right now. But I'm hoping to do a breakdown of it because it's going to be fun. So Tyler Scott, pick number 2 today at 133. All right, we go to the 5th round and sort of like maybe the drop from night 1 to night 2. It went from excitement and like all in on these first 2 picks today to sort of like, okay, all right, well, we'll see how that goes. At 148, Noah Sewell, the linebacker and brother of Penei Sewell. Also reading up on that family, there's like 5 football players.
800 Sewells.
It's unbelievable. And they're all originally from America Samoa, which is pretty cool. So 6'2", 246 is a linebacker though. And the interesting thing about Sewell is his production like cut in half last year. And I thought it was interesting that, was it Poles or Flus that said that, I think Poles said it, that he would have probably been a higher draft pick if he came out last year, just based on the production the year before. Now he couldn't, he was only a sophomore at that point. So he came out as a junior this year anyway. But they had him high on the board and they view that now as a very competitive linebacker room. So it'll be interesting. The reasoning, as far as I can gather, as far as why the tackle. So he had 114 tackles and 8.5 tackles for loss, 4 sacks as a junior. I mean, as a sophomore. It was a massive season, first team all Pac-12. And it sounds like they got cute last year and tried to use that pass rushing ability and use him kind of more as a pass rusher rather than the linebacker, the interior linebacker. He's probably, I'm assuming the Bears view him as. So maybe this is a guy that they can get out there in some sub packages early on, even though that linebacker room is, pretty crowded right now in a good way. And
that's crazy too when you consider where it was when they traded Roschon Smith.
Yeah, good for them.
You really only have one stalwart, though, and 2 in my mind, of course, in everybody's mind, I should say 2, but in Sandgod. But everybody else feels like, at least money committed wise, they have some flexibility on how they want to do this. So there's that side of it. What stood out to me, guys, is the instinctual. Flus underlined that, sideline to sideline, instinctual players. So that characteristic excites me. Dudes who know how to play football, nose for football. They must have really liked something about this guy, right? Because this is, again, not anything that they absolutely need. So I thought it sort of falls under the Roschon category for me. But again, to Adam, your point, it wasn't as exciting a moment.
And it's just, I think, because of how hard they've addressed this position. So adding another one at that point in the draft is like, okay, but at the same time, having another young player to develop, and it's kind of like Keanu Benton, but the inverse, because Benton, we got excited about his potential in the draft because they asked him to be more of a pass rusher, and he succeeded. I know it's the defensive line, but Sewell is also asked to do something different this year, and that's why his overall tackle production went down. But I don't think he's a player that can't tackle. I don't think he's a player that can't be a sideline to sideline, as the Bears brass was talking about just about an hour ago. And I love his block shedding ability. He's a hard hitter. When he finishes, he makes, whether it be a quarterback, running back, receiver, tight end, doesn't matter. He's going to make that person play, and he's going to be a really good special teamer out of the gate. He's going to help set the tone there in the third phase. And then who knows, maybe he's a Sam backer. Perhaps we all said Jack Sanborn's going there. Maybe Jack Sanborn gets relegated to back up Mike. Again, who knows? Well, it'd be really interesting in training camp to see. I can see and envision a battle for the Sam backer coming down to Sewell and Jack Sanborn this year. That would be a lot of fun to watch come July and August.
Well, that would be something if after that rookie season that Sanborn had, that he's not even starting at any three of those positions. But this, you know what, like when you're building a team, you're trying to create as much competition as possible. While you were just saying all that, I was looking up Sanborn's draft profile from last year and last year's beast. I find this very, very interesting in terms of the size comps and everything with Noah Sewell. Jack Sanborn, 6'1", 5'8". Noah Sewell, 6'1.5". I mean, they're virtually same height. 234 pounds on Sanborn, 246. So Sewell's a little bit bigger, probably a little bit stronger coming out. But the knock on Sewell, of course, the speed. He ran a 4.64. Sanborn, though, and this is probably a big reason why he went undrafted, 4.73, right? But you look at the broad jump, virtually identical. They're vertical, very similar, just looking at, explosiveness in that area. I mean, the arm length isn't that far off. These guys are very similar. And why did one get drafted here? This was the 5th round pick, right? Why did one get in the 5th round and then Sanborn went undrafted? But here's what the overall message was on Jack Sanborn last year from Dane Brugler. Overall, Sanborn is a crafty downhill force player, but he lacks explosive range. Might be relegated to early downs because of his average athleticism in coverage. He has the diagnosed skills and competitive toughness to carve out a backup role in the NFL. With Sewell, overall, Sewell doesn't have the tape of a modern-day playmaker with clear limitations in man coverage. But he thumps downhill with the physicality, pedigree, and competitive spirit to make plays between the tackles. He projects as a rookie backup who can become a valuable role player off the ball on early downs and rushing off the edge on passing downs. I mean, really, these guys seem like identical players, except maybe Sewell has, this pass rushing ability that Oregon tried to tap into more this past year.
I think what excites me about the pick, because, when he took it was like linebacker, well, we don't need that. Well, to Adam's point, I think the majority, if not all the picks today were best player available. This definitely screams of that. But what excites me the most about it is we're adding depth now. We're at a point where we're adding depth at positions. Last year, we had no depth at any position. And I would say corner, they drafted a couple corners. They're adding depth to what I thought was a solid by the end of the year of, a position group that was impressing me. Linebackers now adding depth. Running back is adding depth. Wide receivers starting to build out. That's exciting. We're getting close to having a deep team. It's not there yet. They still got work to do, but they're building depth. That's a great thing.
That's a great point.
The Duke says, on behalf of Adam and I, Sanborn will just prove he deserves to be a starter again. Varsity, rah, Wisconsin.
I'm completely with you. I mean, Tremaine Edmonds should watch his back. Let's be honest. I know they paid him a lot of money, but Sand God's coming. Let's freaking go. Watch your back, Tremaine. Yes, they gave you the dough, but the Sand God is not looking at your contract. He's looking you straight in the eye come training camp.
Hey, depth, baby. Iron sharpens iron. May the best man win.
Brick sharpen bricks.
Does it work that way?
Sometimes, yeah. There can be some pretty sharp brick that cut up your hands for sure.
Don't just push back and tell him he doesn't know what he's talking about when he says brick is sharpening brick. Give him that.
Yeah,
he's being an idiot, Braggs.
I would never
I
tell
said
Will
that
he
you-
doesn't know what he's talking about. He's
Not
Graham.
Will. Hoge said it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just looking for to make fun of you, Carm. It didn't matter who the start of the joke was.
Yeah. All right. Let's keep it moving. 3 more picks here, and then we got to get a bunch of super chats as well. Okay, so Terell Smith, this one threw me off. All 3 of these last picks, quite frankly, were, guys we had to do more work on. That's what we expected. That's why we did a Bears 100, and we knew that these, we got late in the draft, it was going to be like this. But Terell Smith, definitely familiar with him because he was at Minnesota, 6'1", 204. But the reality was he hadn't played a whole lot before last year because of injuries, really. I mean, he came in there as a quick starter and then kind of fell off because of the injuries he dealt with in 19, 20, and 21. But then he shows up in 22 and kind of puts it all together finally. So Nick talked about earlier too. This is another one of these guys that fits the size, speed, the length that the Bears are looking for. Really sounds like across the board. But that's what they're betting on here with that ability. Flus also talked about because he's longer. And he can kind of make up for it sometimes when he's, maybe gets off balance or something like that. So that interesting player here. Good season, 38 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss. He got in the backfield too. I saw one highlight of him, I believe sacking Aiden O'Connell, assuming Aiden O'Connell was playing in that game, because I saw him sacking the Purdue quarterback, knocking the ball out on that play as well with the forced fumble. So, and 2 interceptions. So, it took a long road. He is an older prospect. He's going to be turning 24, like basically right when training camp starts. So it'll be interesting. But, 2 corners in this class, something to watch.
I get very nervous taking shots on guys who have had, a significant amount of trouble staying on the field. But it speaks to what they've been looking for. Size, speed. Dude's got some long arms. It's another track guy. So we're hearing a whole lot about traits in this draft. This falls right under that umbrella as to why they went down that path. And I was kind of kidding on Twitter, but I also was just somewhat serious. This dude grew up in Georgia. It is hard to move from warm weather to cold weather. He was willing to go up to Minnesota. There was an inherent toughness in leaving the South to go to freezing ass Minnesota to play football. So
do you say that about every player from Texas who comes to play at Northwestern?
Yeah, I haven't, but I should.
That's why I was like, I've never heard you say that before. But there's like a Texas pipeline that goes to Northwestern.
Because you know why I don't say it? It's not exactly true. But Minnesota's like might as well be Canada. It's just a different level of cold than Chicago. 10 degrees colder. So
it is.
So there is a certain level of toughness. I'm going to Minnesota to play football. Let's go, Terell. Come on, stay healthy. We'll see what he can do.
I don't have much to add, guys. It's like we've mentioned. It's one of those players that we're still really looking into. There's really not a lot on him right now out there. What we heard from the Bears is he has the size and length that they're looking for. Some of the other athletic intangibles, and going back to Greg's point just a little bit ago, it's depth. It's another person that you have in that room, and continue to get a little bit deeper and have a little bit more competition. Excited to see how it all kind of plays out for him.
By the way, his offers were Indiana, cold. Iowa State, cold. Kentucky, pretty cold in the winter. Louisville, cold enough. Maryland, cold enough. Ole Miss,
You cannot shoot down my point with Kentucky and Louisville.
Virginia, they have winter. West Virginia, they definitely have winter. He did finally get offers from Michigan State, cold. Notre Dame, cold. He did have one offer. I will hand you this. He is tough because he did not go to Florida. He had an offer from Florida, but he's like, no, just give me the Minnesota weather.
Don't push back on my Minnesota cold. This dude has something in his heart that you can't teach. Let's go. Come on. Day 1 Bears.
I like it. All right. Next up, Travis Bell, one of Ryan Poles' favorite humans ever, came in for a 30 visit. If you missed this, this was actually amazing here. He had a full-time job while playing football, at least last year. 6 foot, 310, sort of an undersized 3 technique. I think they're going to try to play him, as a rotational guy, both spots, give you depth, tested well. Another guy with high athletic scores. And he told us on the conference call that he models his game after Grady Jarrett, which is interesting. The Falcons defensive tackle, asked about his own style of play. He said today, quote, "I got a motor, man. Y'all should expect to see me running sideline to sideline, like Carman runs sideline to sideline on the tennis court." Although apparently you have a knee injury out of nowhere.
I do have bursitis in my left knee. It's unfortunate. Did you guys listen to his press conference? The guy was you couldn't help but fall in love with him. I will be rooting hard for this absolute positive underdog long shot to get this thing done. First guy ever drafted out of Kennesaw State. That's freaking awesome. He said he cried when Poles called him. He couldn't speak at all. He gained huge confidence in the Cincinnati game where, okay, I'm going up against a fairly, at least big time program for who Kennesaw State plays. And I haven't watched the game yet, but apparently he showed out well. Calls himself a self-driven, nasty guy, physical, a work ethic that's off the chart, motor. He's talking about is huge. So this is just an easy guy to root for, if nothing else.
He also just retweeted the graphic that we posted.
That's right. If you go to his Twitter page,
here, let me
right
share
now,
that for you. Hold
at
on.
the very top,
Hold
showing us some love. CHGO Bears.
Look at this. There he is.
There it is.
Right there at the top.
Boom.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to overcook the ham here with my guy Travis Bell. I mean, blue collar guy. Ryan Poles said, he had a full-time job and football was his recess. So I relate to that, man. I got a full-time job and then I come here and pretend to report on football as my recess. So, hey, like I said, I'm going to overcook the ham all day long. And so it definitely somebody I'm going to root for. And hey, he said he got emotional. He's a crier. I get emotional too. So I can respect it. I'll be rooting hard for him as well, Carm.
I know when we were drafting those defensive tackles and we're looking at the combine results, and the vertical was one of those measurables that we're kind of looking at for both, of course, Dexter and Pickens, who are up there at the combine. Bell wasn't at the combine, but as pro day, he had a 32.5-inch vertical. So I went to the combine results. That would have ranked 3rd overall, and that would have put Dexter at 4th and Zach Pickens at 5th. So it just kind of goes with that theme of going with guys who can execute that drill specifically. But just wanted to put something out there to kind of put it, some concreteness behind the athleticism. But yeah, very excited to see how he fits, if it's right away, if he's a practice squad guy, as he develops and continues to get used to the bigger competition here at the NFL. But regardless, Pole's favorite guy in the whole world, apparently. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. 3 defensive tackles, they need all the help they can get on the defensive line, depth, talent, or otherwise. Let's hope, the majority of these guys hit. And, if they can get somebody, in free agency or, surprise cut here coming up as far as a veteran on the edge, now you got something going here.
All right, our final draft pick to discuss, second to last pick in the entire draft. So not quite Mr. Irrelevant, but Kendall Williamson from Stanford, 6 foot and a half, 202 on the weight. And, he ran a 4.40. He's, again, another guy with good measurables, long arms, broad jump, 10.4. I mean, this guy fits, again, that profile that the Bears are looking for. And Ryan Poles talking about specifically the size and the speed and the range that he has, which I did see some clips, and it does kind of show him going, on that back end, showing a considerable amount of range. I think this is probably somebody who's most likely contributing on special teams to begin. Remember, they took Elijah Hicks in the 7th round last year, another safety rival at Cal, not Stanford, but I guess that's where they get their late round special team safeties.
What's interesting to me, and I watched his press conference. He comes off very much like a Stanford guy. This dude is, I don't know, if I needed a lawyer, I'd hire him or let him be my doctor too.
Well, didn't he have like a mechanical engineering?
Yes,
is that right?
Major?
Yeah. I mean, he reeked of all of it. This guy is doesn't need football to be successful in life by a long shot, but. The Bears are very much believing in their coaching staff that they can act and extract talent that, Poles said, called it meat. There's plenty of meat on the bone. I think he was talking about that with Dexter, but doesn't matter. I think they look at a lot of these guys this way. So
can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
Because I actually wanted to bring that up with last year's class. Because that's a huge part of this season, in my opinion. And you had 11 picks last year, and there's still questions about a lot of them, right? Is Kyler Gordon going to take a big step forward this year? I mean, they drafted a cornerback yesterday, basically play outside. Yeah. And they're going to keep him in the nickel, which is an important spot in that defense. But, I don't know if they do that if they were completely in love with what he did last year. But even more beyond that, even with some of these later round guys that we're talking about right now, that to develop them with coaching, I feel like we almost forget about Dominique Robinson. Dominique Robinson was the definition of a traits guy last year. Size, speed, get off, explosiveness, length. Great start to the season. Never heard from him again. Right? Now I'm going to give that guy the benefit of the doubt because they said going in he was going to be raw. But that's the type of guy that, okay, year two, if this development's happening, if you're going to have this approach that you just brought up, Carm, where you're relying on your coaches, I think it obviously happened with Braxton Jones. Kudos to Chris Morgan and everybody involved in that. See if he can keep taking it to the next level. But somebody like Dominique Robinson, you want to see, especially since they drafted the edge guys this year, someone better take a step forward here.
If you want to go further down that and just throw the skepticism out there, Travis Gibson, you expected more last year from him. It didn't happen for whatever reason. Now, mainly, perhaps that there's just no help around him. But if you're looking for guys that you can actually flag and say, that coaching staff got that guy way past where you thought he would be, Braxton's a great example. But after that, it ain't Velus. Kyler got better as the year went along, so you could throw him in there, and maybe you could fly Jack Sanborn up there, Sand God, perhaps. But that almost felt like that fell out of the sky for him. They just had to use him, and he got out there and he showed what he could do. So he sounds to me like when you get into this conversation, it makes me think that he's going to be paying very close attention, not necessarily to Flus, but that entire coaching staff around Flus as to who is being able to lift up these guys to get to where Poles thinks they can be.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing about Dom Rob specifically too last year is we got rid of Robert Quinn, right? You got rid of the one guy who can actually draw attention at the edge. So it made every offensive line job all season long so much easier. And I'm not going to use that as an excuse, but for a guy who was a project, his best friend could have been having a veteran playmaker on the field with them to kind of help him out and to learn from throughout the entirety of a season. And that still could be in the cards for the Bears here to this free agency. It's not over yet. It's really free. Wave 2 is going to start. You got cuts coming up. You can still find a guy like that to bring to Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, the excuse train is going to start shrinking for all these guys. Last year you get a little bit of a, okay, we're going to let you through this year with some struggles. You don't have help on the defensive line, Travis Gibson. So how are you supposed to make a play? Justin Fields, how are you supposed to do anything? Because you don't have offensive line that's going to block for you, wide receivers that can catch for you. So across the board, it started. The excuses are going to shrink this year. They're going to have to step up. The expectations are going to go up. When Ryan Poles talked about, we'll see what we do in free agency and things like that. We have the draft next year. Hey man, this year Bears fans are going to expect you to win games. They let you slide last year. I even got to a point where some Bears fans, including myself, were rooting for the team to lose. It will not be like that this year. These guys got to step up.
All right. So there's a look at all the picks from today, the class of 10.
Let me just throw one thing in there. Just in a year of down safeties, Kendall Williamson didn't make Brugler's top 33. It was number 35. So this is a bet against the Brug here.
I think the Bears started with almost all their picks being in his top 100. I think until he got to Noah Sewell. I think Noah Sewell was the first one that wasn't in Brugler's top 100, and then they finished it by drafting two guys that didn't even have write-ups in the beast.
Yeah, right.
One thing I just wanted to quickly add, though, like this Williamson pick is probably not even considered a player that they would expect to start. DeAndre Houston Carson hasn't re-signed his annual deal. He was a 6th-round pick, and he was a core perennial special teams player who I think surprised some people later on in his career in Chicago when he did get chances on defense, but that was just a lot of time in the system, not even really being out there early on in his career. So I can see the same thing for Williamson, who's really smart, 3-time all Pac-12 academic honor roll member. As we talked about, mechanical engineering. So, he's super, super smart, and he really embodies that hustle mentality. A good quote from thegridironcrew.com. I'm a hard worker. I'm a firm believer that you can get anywhere in life if you put in a lot of work. The only way you will get better is through hard work and giving everything you have, and then continue to talk about his professional mentality both on and off the field. So for me, I think this is a long-term special teams player kind of pick.
Carm, did your guy Holton Ahlers sign anywhere?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, he's a freaking Seahawk.
Oh, he should have gone to Minnesota.
Vikings, Seahawks, around the water. His ancestry had worked. It's a major bummer that I tried as hard as I possibly could. It's all right. Don't worry about it, Pauls. It's fine. You don't want to listen to me about my quarterback analysis. I get it. It's just all good old Carm here. But of course they went out and who's their undrafted QB that's out there we could talk about another time? Tyson Bagent.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Went to Shepherd.
Shepherd.
He looks like the one character in Yellowstone. I can't remember right now. That went down to Texas. The cowboy there.
Ahlers is gonna beat out Geno Smith. He's starting opening day. Damn it! Let's freaking go.
You're ridiculous.
I love that guy.
All right. Tons of super chats to get to. And then lay down for 20 hours.
Perfect.
I'm going to dinner. Let's go.
You are?
Yes. Me and cousin Jay. We'll be out and about. Don't you worry.
That's impressive.
Chop, chop.
Lawrence, whatever you want to do here with super chats.
Did we already do all our ads? I thought we were going to do some more ads first.
Oh, yeah. I guess we probably got to do that.
Wow.
Brain is broken.
Wow, Hoge.
Okay.
What?
I'm just kidding. Goose Island, Adam.
Yeah. I've been Goose Island the ad the whole show. I got the Blackhawks Pale Ale right here. Still a few left in the old fridge. Still hockey season.
Oh, yeah.
Hockey season in my fridge, at least. But obviously we love Goose Island. They were our sponsor and helped us put on the shows at Joe's the last 2 days, and we are proudly supported and sponsored by Goose Island Beer Company here at CHGO, Chicago's beer since 1988. They got the Goose IPA. There's a few tropical beer hugs in my fridge. I thought that was a little too strong to go mid-show, but maybe after show I'll grab. I think that's 9.9 alcohol in that one. It's dangerously easy to drink though. Of course, you got the 312s. We had those going a lot over the last 2 days at Joe's, and you can grab ultra fresh brewery exclusive beers at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer.
And it is true that I just have been feeling to put the shades on tonight because this draft class is so damn ass bright. You got to do it. Take on the Sun and the Bears draft with this gear built to last from our friends at Shady Rays, which have you covered in the warm weather, the cold weather, any weather, with the premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company. That's who you're supporting, which is awesome. They offer a world-class product right here. I love it. Durable frames, extremely clear optics. I'm feeling great wearing them right now. And that is not all. Shady Rays offering the most insane protection plan in all of eyewear. If I threw these against the wall right now, even if they were watching the show, they would still send me a new pair. They are backed by their lost and
Prove
broken.
it.
Nope, love them too much. Would never do that to Shady Rays. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they'll send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they've got your back long after you purchase them. And a reminder, exclusive for you, our fine listener. And by the way, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I know we got a bunch of new people potentially in here, over 1,400 people watching. Thank you so much. Exclusively for you, Shady Rays giving you their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com. Use that code CHGO. You get 50% off 2 pairs of polarized sunglasses. You can try for yourself the shades that are rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people.
Also, it's NBA playoff time. That means big hoops action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. You can get in on the excitement of every game with the touch of a button. New customers can make a $5 pregame money line bet, score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Plus, everyone can score a no-sweat same-game parlay every day during the NBA playoffs. Open the DraftKings Sportsbook app. You opt in, place the same-game parlay on any NBA game, and if it doesn't hit, you'll get a bonus bet back up to $10. Download the app now. Sign up with code CHGO. New customers can make a $5 pregame moneyline bet, score $150 in bonus bets if their team wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code CHGO. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Massachusetts, call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Kansas, call 1-800-522-4700 on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
And just to let you guys know, we appreciate everybody and this amazing offseason coverage that you've been watching, led by Will and Adam and Nick and Greg and Woot. Woot was phenomenal the last 2 days. The Bears offseason coverage on CHGO brought to you by ComEd's Energy Efficiency Program. Learn more at ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
All right. So, first of all, I've had a poll going in the YouTube chat, and it was give us your grade for the draft class, the full draft class. B is the overwhelming winner with 65%. But my one little bone to pick is that we've got about 1,100 votes on this poll, and I'm looking here, and I'm only seeing just over 300 likes. You were able to tap the voting. You could definitely also tap that thumb for me. Appreciate you very much.
I will. I do have one little beef with YouTube. Like when you're watching on your phone, it's kind of hard to find the like button.
No, it's not.
It's not as obvious.
It's not.
It's a thumb.
It's pretty easy.
Okay.
Easy.
Well, then if it's easy, listen to them. You can find it.
All right, we got 1 million super chats, so thank you very much for everyone who's been supporting us that way as well. I'm just going to start with the Duke because he just threw this one in here, and it's the Duke. He's my guy. 999 says, I'm just glad the Bears didn't do anything stupid like draft a running back or an off-ball linebacker in the first round. # Don Burr sucks.
Shot at the Lions.
That is a shot.
And a 25-year-old quarterback who's coming off an injury in the third round. So
sneaky good pick, if you ask me. But
I like that pick a lot. Lions had a good draft.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you, Duke. JL999. When we look at the current superstars, how many had poor draft grades? A hell of a lot. How do we look at what these guys could be instead of what they were? How do we look at what these guys could be instead of what they weren't in college? And then he gives the example here. Tyreek Hill is round 5, and Sherman also a 5th rounder. And there you go.
That's why they get paid the big bucks, JL.
Y'all, I think that's what we've been trying to do here for months now, too, which is what we just talked about with Tyler Scott, what he could still be going forward.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Now we'll go back to earlier. Bears on Kawhi, 999. Many questions, and trust you guys and polls will show me what a genius he is. But what do you think about Johnson when McGuire was available? No edge and no interior offensive line. Johnson.
Roschon Johnson over Isaiah McGuire
okay.
from Mizzou, who was pretty much kind of that last edgy guy that was sitting there that was high on boards. I mean, I think you got to remember that every team has different things they're looking for, different flavors. If you saw I saw the graphic of all the Bears players with their RAS scores, the relative athletic scores, and they're all in the green, all 10 of them. And then the Vikings didn't draft a single one with like a grade over or 8.8 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Out of 10, and all the Bears ones are above that. So, and what's crazy about that is Kwesi Adolfo-Menso was the other one that the Bears were, a finalist with, and they chose Ryan Poles, and it's like the Vikings are going in a completely different direction. So when you think about that, it's almost like different flavors of something you like. Like the Bears are skewing towards this, and that doesn't mean that every one of those edge guys are necessarily even on their board, quite frankly.
Yeah, to your point, when you look at those RAS scores by Kent Lee Plott that posted them on Twitter, all green for the Bears, and then the Vikings all yellow, and they have one dude in red.
Mm-hmm. He had a 3.72.
Well,
3.72. Carman has a 3.72.
I just know colors. You start showing me numbers, and then I get lost. The colors make sense to me, though.
All right, MVZ podcast. $4.99, and he says that the fact that Rojo got on the field against a generational talent speaks volumes. ESPN said he earned play time because of his pass blocking. That's a good point.
Yeah, I love it. They love him there. I mean, and he just seems like just such a great fit for the Bears locker room too.
Yeah,
so.
You didn't get an edge. To me, you got to get guys on a 1-year deal. Hopefully, you can get a good veteran to hold you over a year, and you have 2 first-round picks next year.
And I'll say too, just like kind of bringing all the running back moves full circle since David Montgomery left. Like this also, and probably then some, fills that part of the void, right? Which because they liked David Montgomery in the locker room, they liked his presence there and what he stood for and how he ran and how he pass blocked, and like that was sort of the one thing that we still felt a little uneasy about, right? Like, okay, they got Dante Foreman, they got some guys here, Travis Homer, but it's like, what about the pass blocking? Because that's still a question with Khalil Herbert, right? And it's definitely a question with Treston Ebner. Now they sort of filled that. I don't want to say character because it's not like the other guys don't have character. It's just like sort of that gravitational pull in the locker room, right? That certain guys have. I think that this replaces whatever void was left behind with David Montgomery, and it'll take some time to build up. But you hear coaches talk about this guy. I don't think it's going to take that long.
Great point, Adam.
All right. Let's see here. Let's go to Mark Gauthier. $9.99 says, great coverage, CHGO. Bears still need to address the O-line, especially center, but there is plenty of time and opportunities ahead before opening kickoff.
That was one interesting one. They had John Michael Schmitz there, and they didn't do it. But yes, it's to your point. There is time to add on.
All right. Let's see here. How about this one from Michael? Who's this year's UDFA Sand God?
I haven't even looked at the list yet. I think it's been coming out as this show's been kind of unrolling.
I was going to say, I honestly, I don't necessarily know who they've even signed at this point, and it's we'll dive into it on Monday. I promise.
Here's one from Brandon. They signed Tyson Bagent.
That's the guy.
That's the QB. I have the list of names, but I mean, I can't.
No, we don't need it. We'll do that Monday. That's
I have
fine.
no idea.
That's a good question. Thank you.
Could be Jalen Harris, the defensive end. We'll see.
Yeah. Let's go to, how about Anthony Capriati, who says, in defense of Dexter's get-off, he played in a scheme where he was asked to read and mirror the man in front of him. His eyes may not have been in the ball. In the Bear scheme, he'll attack more.
Yeah, that's what the Bears are saying. That's what they said in the press conference last night. We never kind of got to what was said last night after we ended our show, but that's definitely what they're hoping with both of these guys, with Zach Pickens too, that they were more read and react guys. And I watched some film a little bit this morning, and you could definitely see that. So they're projecting that their size and explosiveness is really there. They just wasn't really asked to use it as much. And okay, they're betting on that. Like that's always a little dangerous, but that answers the question from earlier too, which is like, you take what they did in college, but you're trying to spring it forward, right? To see how it fits in what you do here at the NFL. That's exactly it. That's a good comment there from Anthony, because that's how it I mean, this is a perfect example of that. Now you just got to hope it actually works out.
All right. Let's see. How about from Arabase, 999. This draft shows that Poles has 100% confidence in his staff to develop players. Coaching/situation is greater than college production. Also, they must like Doug Kramer.
I really like the comment here and about the confidence in developing, and that's been a big theme under this regime since they started a year ago about developing players and building this team through the drafts. Regarding Doug Kramer, it was interesting when they're talking about the position a little bit ago. He mentioned Cody and Lucas, but I didn't hear Doug's name.
Yeah.
Maybe I missed it, but I did not hear it.
No, I really do think they like Lucas Patrick and Cody Ware. I think they like them as leaders, tone setters on the offensive line. They feel like, I think they feel like they have a starter in depth there with those two guys. Doug Kramer to me is not necessarily strongly in the picture.
ILL. Forgot to shout out Mr. Crinkle here for the $2. He also asked about the undrafted free agents, so we can move past that. Jermaine 499. Thank you. He says, I think people overreact on the edge rusher need. Bears will get a rookie or two edge next year, but in the meantime, I think they go free agent. Yannick, as in Ngakoue.
Yeah, I just don't think you can. I don't know you can overreact to it though. I mean, they really do need pass rushing help. They still got to get to the quarterback. It's a huge hole right now. I think it's probably the biggest hole after filling right tackle now, and it's still staring there. But I do think that they will address it with some veterans. There's a couple teams. Like I saw Brad Spielberger tweeting about this a little bit today. There's some teams that added some edge rushers. Some of the teams that actually did draft them that could be springing a veteran or two loose. As a result here, there will be a round of cap casualties that always happen post-draft over the next few days. So keep an eye on that. There could be some guys. And then, in terms of the Yannick Ngakoue conversation, very good pass rusher, without a doubt. Not so good against the run. So if they sign him, and I'm all for it because they do need to get to the quarterback, but you still got to keep expectations somewhat sound. But I do think he's a fit because I do think the Bears have other guys that can stop the run right now.
And, with Ryan Poles coming from Kansas City, Frank Clark still available. Leonard Floyd once played for the Bears. Jadeveon Clowney, obviously a big name. I don't know for you or any of you guys, do you look at any of those guys with a preference?
Even though he never really lived up to expectation, I mean, Clowney's not a bad player.
They have plenty of money to spend, and if they do 1-year prove-it deal, it doesn't matter.
$36.7 million in cap space still.
Yeah, they have plenty of money if they want to do like a 1-year deal for a guy like that, and then they can draft their version of him. The year following, they have those options. And Ryan Poles said it, like, we have flexibility in how we can address this need, and he did mention the key word that I took away was financially, flexible here for it.
That was the thing, though, when he said that. And then Potsy was pushing him on it. Like, what are the criteria of who you? And he was like, well, fit and what the contract term would be. And he was like, he's like, I'm never gonna rush. I'm not gonna go ahead of my skis. I'm gonna be patient. And I was like, okay, you got the money, just spend it. For a 1-year deal guy. I'm not saying
but that's why the terms matter. What if they want 3?
Yeah, I get it, but I do not want, to just rest on our laurels that next year's draft is coming. That's great. You're a GM. You're going to look at next year's draft, but I'm ready to start winning some games. Last year was fun rooting for the number 1 pick, but I want them to be competing. When they get to December, I want to see that on that graphic they show on TV that they're in the hunt. That's my expectation for this team.
Yes, okay. Carman? No,
I don't even know. My goal is not to be in the hunt. That makes me nauseous as a Bears fan. I can't wait to be 6-8 and in the hunt. My goal is to win the damn ass Super Bowl, and so I want them to develop players. So
reasonable expectations.
No, I don't. It is reasonable. Bears fans deserve a Super Bowl. You deserve a Super Bowl, and so trying to squeeze a veteran in here to get wins this year, I'm okay with it. But I also want these guys to get opportunities to play. You're trying to build a massive foundation to actually do something special.
All right, let's go to Dwayne Wheeler for $4.99. He says Travis Bell from Kennesaw State shouldn't be looked at as overlooked due to where he came from. I see a lot of positive traits. Khalil Mack went to Buffalo.
Let's go Travis Bell, baby. We're all in.
I'm a little disappointed that none of you mentioned that Kennesaw State is where the turnover plank came from. It's one of the best turnover props that any college came up with in the last.
Yeah, I'm not
5
familiar
years.
with it. You're gonna have to explain it.
It's literally a board. Someone drew a little face on it, and it's called the turnover plank. It was like
Ed and Eddie?
Exactly. It is
Okay.
exactly from Ed and Eddie. If you go to their website, there's a story about the turnover plank. But
Neat.
yes, so shout out to the turnover plank. Okay, what else we got next here? Oh, let's get back to that question that we posed earlier, and then we said we'd put off till the end here from Jake for $19.99, and he said, excluding the seventh rounders, which pick is your least favorite pick? So let's go back to the full draft class. Here we go. What do you think?
So the reason why I hesitated on this is because at first I wanted to say Dexter because John Michael Schmitz was available. It's really about who was still available. I think he was available in the next one too, right?
He was.
So I think that's part of why I wasn't totally in love with those selections. The one thing I will say about Tyreek Stevenson, which we haven't talked about yet, is my hesitation on him about, what we touched on a little bit earlier on the show, the comparison to how he handled what was going on in Georgia, where they weren't playing him at the position he wanted to play, and he fought with the coaching staff over it, and then there was a bar fight too. We got a little bit of an answer from Ryan Poles on that last night when he talked after our show, and obviously Stevenson expressed some remorse and understanding and some maturity coming out of that experience because Poles felt comfortable that he had learned the lesson from that. And he even told him, that's going to happen here at the NFL level. You're going to come in, you're going to have to be flexible. Not guaranteed any spot. You're not guaranteed anything. How are you going to handle it? So, okay, if he's really learned all that, then the little red flag that we had on him, because we did have a red flag on the board with Tyreek Stevenson, okay, maybe it's not as big of a deal. Obviously, the Bears didn't feel like it was. So I'm willing to kind of pass that. I think my answer is probably Noah Sewell, and it's really nothing against him. I just feel like the Bears are so set at that spot that there's plenty of other options that were still sitting there, guys that were on our Bears 100 that it just didn't. Again, that's best player available. They're really doing it because otherwise that one didn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
That's kind of why it would be my least favorite. And by the way, I appreciate in the question framing it as least favorite, not like the pick you hate, because it's so hard to say you hate a pick right now.
Right.
So least favorite's a great way to frame it. But yeah, just because of the linebacking room that's already in place, it feels like a luxury pick a little bit in a position in the draft where you could have addressed a need or added depth to a thinner position. So that's why I would lean Sewell for my least favorite. But at the end of the day, again, like it's not like I hate it per se.
All right, well, let's keep going here. Let's get to the portion of the show where it's all about Carm. This was from earlier. Hair Bear $4.99.
Also, I'm going to have to make a ruling here. I love everybody. I appreciate all the support coming in here, but we got to end this soon too.
Yeah,
like we might have to save some of these super chats for Monday or something.
These are all
but
quick. It's all just, we don't all need to comment or anything. Not really any questions here. But yeah, like Hair Bear was saying, is Carman an 80s music video or is he wanted by the law? That was due to the arguable goat hat and the Sunnies. Great show, guys. Agree. Mark Gauthier from Easing Wold. He says, great coverage, CHGO. Bears still need to address the O-line, especially center, but there's plenty of time and opportunities ahead before the opening kickoff. And then Mark also threw in this one. It took 250 years to build York Minster. It was built stone by stone. So the Bears need to build a Super Bowl team brick by brick, but hopefully it won't take as long. Bear down. That's a good one. And then he also asked if Sewell does the haka, which I did. He played in the Polynesian Bowl. Yes. Yes, I believe he knows how to do the haka. Logan Scott, respect for Carman is goodwill Mike. Agree. MVZ podcast. Hoge uses a Roadcast and podcast mic. He knows. Thanks for that one. And then also MVZ, thank you very much for these multiple super chats. He says, whoever set up the live on location with no real hookups and changed the levels to accept a call deserves this super chat. Phenomenal. That was partially me. I got to shout out Allie Monroy because she came in especially for this from DNVR. She is the rock star of all rock stars who makes ALLCITY go. And so she was awesome. Thank you to her and Jake and everyone that helped. That was awesome. Adam, did you have a quick comment on that?
No, I just wanted to give you credit for it. You guys, the way you got all that going, and Allie too. Well, and we call honestly, her the ALLCITY mom.
Mom, she's the CEO. She's the boss, man. She's everything.
And Spano would probably admit that.
Yes, he has admitted that. So
yeah, she's great.
She is the best. Shout out to her. $20 from Mr. Crinkle says, love you guys. So happy for CHGO. Great content, and you all bring something different to the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Crinkle.
And of course, our guy Gary, who was there both nights. He says 2 nights at the CHGO draft party was awesome. Great meeting everyone. Thanks for the memories and keep up the great work. That was cool. Thank you for all your help, Gary. You don't realize how much you were actually on night one when you were showing me your phone because you were following on Twitter, which it gave me a heads up to know which graphic to get ready for you guys. That was huge.
He's been great.
That was awesome.
I was wondering by the end of it if he was on the payroll yet, or at least was he? Is he considered an intern for the 2 shows we did out there or something?
Seriously, he's definitely a diehard. I'll give him that. I don't know.
The only thing was when he was waving at us and like trying to mouth things to us, and I'm like, I can't hear you. I don't know what you're saying. The Bears just drafted Anthony Richardson. What did you just say?
His passion is unmatched, and he also, like, when I've been at work and trying to keep up with things during free agency and coming up to the draft, he's DMing me multiple, like 10, 15 times a day, like every little breaking news information. So when I get to lunch or get off work, I still can stay up with this stuff. And for me personally, that meant a lot, Gary. Honestly, no smoke. You've been tremendous. You're a diehard. You know, there's no question about it.
Absolutely. Richard Ochoa, $20 to say thanks for the content. Greg, keep joining spaces.
Hey, you know me, Richard. I'll be in the spaces. We'll be talking. We'll be talking that shit in there all day
Greg's
long.
about to grab another cocky and get in the spaces.
No cockies tonight. No, none.
Bears on Kawhi threw us another super chat. Say great coverage. Get some rest. Bear down. We're working on it. Let's finish with the guy we always want to start and end the show with, the Duke. Another $5. Nobody tell Adam what happened to the crap socks tonight.
Oh, no, I will. Come on now, dude.
I have a tweet literally in front of me loaded that I'm going to play.
They're losing 12-3, Hoge.
Yeah, but it's Luis Robert got benched for dogging it to first base, which is something that should have happened 3 years ago.
Yeah,
I don't know why these guys have no accountability, because as you were raising them and developing them, you didn't do any of that. Why do you think they still run like that and don't know what they're doing?
Maybe if you weren't such a Fairleigh Dickinson, this wouldn't be happening to you. Did you ever think of that?
No, I can fairly safely assume that I have deserve zero blame in this whatsoever.
All right. Well, hey, that'll do it for now. You might notice down there in the corner by Bragg's, there's a new shirt that came out.
That's right.
It's beautiful. Go get it. You could find it underneath this video in the links. There's a bunch of different shirts and hoodies down there. That's one of them. Go get it. It's awesome. And if you're a diehard, 20% off. So there you go.
And a good time to sign up to be a diehard. I mean, if you're happy with everything, you know, if you're on the fence and you still haven't signed up and you saw everything we did this weekend, want to support us, I mean, please sign up to be a diehard. allchgo.com/diehard, and you get a shirt when you sign up. So that one can be your shirt.
And when we do more events like this, excuse me, you get 20% off all of your event tickets too. So you don't need to be a diehard to join us, but you definitely save a lot of money if you do.
And if you do come to one of our events, you're likely to get some sort of illness based on these guys and their coughs and their sneezes
what is
and
going on?
everything.
We've been talking for 3 straight days.
Rest
Not
and rehab,
sickness.
recovery. That's what I was doing. I got the medicine ball tea at
Medicine
Starbucks
ball.
today. I'm feeling strong. Last night I went to bed. I was and now I'm good.
All right. Well, I think we did good.
Thank you to everyone. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You guys
For
are the
real.
real stars.
We'll see you Monday at noon.
Talk to you then.